When my daughter handed me a 30-day eviction notice, not for a tenant, not for a stranger, but for me, her own mother, I stood in the doorway of the home I'd helped her buy and read the words that would change everything between us. "Mom, Biscuit needs more space, and you're taking up the guest room," she said, not even looking me in the eye. Biscuit, that was her golden retriever. She was kicking me out to make room for her dog. I remember folding that piece of paper very carefully, sliding it into my purse, and walking out without a single word. My hands weren't shaking yet. That would come later, in the parking lot of the grocery store, where I sat for 2 hours trying to understand how I'd raised someone who could do this to me. My name is Me, and this is a story about a mother's love, a daughter's cruelty, and the most expensive lesson in respect I ever had to teach. Let me take you back to where this all started, because the betrayal didn't happen overnight. It was built slowly, brick by brick, while I was too busy being a devoted mother to notice the foundation crumbling beneath my feet. I spent 33 years working as a nurse at County General Hospital. Third shift mostly, the overnight hours when the hospital got quiet, except for the beeping machines and the occasional emergency. I didn't mind it. The pay differential was better, and it meant I could be home during the day when my daughter Rachel was young. My husband, Tom, passed away when Rachel was only 12. Heart attack, sudden and cruel, the kind that takes a man in his sleep and leaves his family scrambling to understand a world without him. After that, it was just Rachel and me. I worked doubles when I could, took on extra shifts during holidays when the pay was time and a half. I wanted Rachel to have everything: dance lessons, summer camps, the kind of childhood that didn't feel marked by loss. She got into State University, and I was so proud I cried in the parking lot after we toured the campus. I paid her tuition from my savings, took out a small loan to cover her last 2 years. "Don't worry about paying me back," I told her at graduation, hugging her tight in her cap and gown. "Just be happy, baby, that's all I want." She met Derek in her senior year, a nice enough young man who worked in pharmaceutical sales. They got married 2 years after graduation in a ceremony I paid for. Nothing extravagant, but beautiful. Elegant. I remember Rachel crying when she saw the venue, the string lights I'd helped hang myself the night before. "Mom, it's perfect," she'd whispered. I thought then that I'd done something right, raised a daughter who appreciated the sacrifices made for her. They wanted to buy a house 5 years into their marriage. The market was competitive, and they were struggling to save for a down payment. Rachel called me one Tuesday evening, her voice tight with stress. "Mom, we found the perfect house. It's in Maplewood, 3 bedrooms, a big backyard for when we have kids. But we're short on the down payment, and if we don't move fast, we'll lose it." I didn't hesitate. I'd been saving for retirement, had a nest egg built from years of overtime and careful budgeting. I withdrew $40,000, nearly half of everything I had, and gave it to them as a gift, not a loan. "A gift, use it for your future," I told Rachel, holding both her hands across my small kitchen table. "Build your life, honey. You deserve it." Looking back now, I should have noticed the way she took the check without quite meeting my eyes. I should have paid attention to how quickly she folded it into her purse, how she changed the subject when I asked if they needed help moving. But I didn't. I was too busy feeling the warm glow of being a good mother, of being needed and appreciated. 3 years passed. Rachel and Derek settled into their Maplewood house, a charming two-story colonial with white shutters and a porch I'd helped them paint that first summer. They got Biscuit, the golden retriever puppy, and their social media filled with photos of the dog in various adorable poses. I liked seeing Rachel happy, even if I didn't hear from her as often as I would have liked. My own situation had changed. The hospital started cutting hours for senior nurses, pushing us toward early retirement. My income dropped by 30% over 2 years. Then my landlord, Mr. Patterson, died and his son took over the building. The son saw dollar signs where his father had seen long-term tenants. My rent increased 40% with 60 days' notice. On my reduced income, I couldn't afford it. I called Rachel on a Thursday afternoon. My hands were steady then, my voice calm. "Honey, I'm having some trouble with my housing situation. My rent is going up, and with my hours cut, I'm not sure I can manage it. I was wondering if maybe I could stay with you and Derek for a little while, just until I figure things out." There was a pause on the other end of the line, a long pause. Then Rachel said, "Mom, let me talk to Derek and get back to you." She called back 3 days later. "Mom, we talked about it. You can stay in the guest room, temporarily, just until you get back on your feet." The word temporarily should have warned me, but I was too relieved to notice the coldness in her tone. I moved in 2 weeks later with everything I owned packed into my 12-year-old Honda Civic, my clothes, my photo albums, my mother's china that had survived 2 generations, a few pieces of furniture that meant something to me. Rachel met me at the door. She didn't help me carry anything in. "The guest room is upstairs, second door on the right. We're using the 3rd bedroom as Derek's office, so please don't disturb anything in there. Biscuit isn't allowed upstairs, so make sure you keep your door closed." I should have felt welcomed. Instead, I felt like an inconvenient visitor in a house my money had helped buy. But I pushed the feeling down, carried my boxes upstairs, and told myself this was temporary. Just a few months while I found something affordable. The first week was tense. Rachel had rules. No using the washing machine before 9 a.m. or after 7 p.m. because it was loud. No cooking anything with strong smells because Derek was sensitive. No watching TV in the living room after 8 because that was their couple time. I followed every rule, made myself as small and quiet as possible. I ate dinner early in my room from paper plates so I wouldn't leave dishes in the sink. But it was never enough. "Mom, can you not park in front of the house? Derek likes to be able to pull straight into the driveway." Rachel said one morning, handing me my coffee in a to-go mug, a not-so-subtle hint that I should take it upstairs. "Mom, Biscuit is stressed. The vet thinks it's because there are too many people in the house," she mentioned casually one evening, not looking up from her phone. "Mom, did you use my shampoo? I bought that at the salon and it's expensive." I hadn't. I'd brought my own toiletries, kept them in a small basket in the guest bathroom. 6 weeks passed. I started looking for apartments in my price range, but everything was either too expensive or in neighborhoods that weren't safe for a woman my age living alone. I applied for 2 part-time nursing positions and got rejected from both. They wanted younger nurses, fresh energy, though they didn't say that outright. Then came the afternoon that split my life into before and after. It was a Saturday, 3:47 p.m. I remember because I'd just gotten home from a job interview at a clinic 30 minutes away, and the car clock had just changed to 3:47 when I pulled up. Rachel was waiting for me in the living room, sitting on the couch with Derek beside her. Biscuit was at their feet. The whole scene looked staged, rehearsed. "Mom, sit down. We need to talk," Rachel said. Her voice had that careful flatness people use when they're about to say something they know is wrong, but have already justified to themselves. I sat in the armchair across from them, my interview folder still in my hands. My heart started beating faster, that instinct you get when you know something bad is coming. Rachel slid a piece of paper across the coffee table. It was printed on official-looking letterhead, the kind you can generate from legal template websites. 30-day notice to vacate. It read at the top in bold letters. "What is this?" I asked, though I could read perfectly well. "Mom, this isn't working out. Biscuit is anxious all the time, and the vet says he needs more space. We're planning to convert the guest room into a proper space for him, a dog room with his crate, and toys and everything he needs. You're going to have to find somewhere else to live." I stared at her, at my daughter, my only child. The girl I'd rocked through nightmares and nursed through fevers and put through college. You're evicting me for your dog. We're not evicting you, Mom. Don't be dramatic. We're just asking you to find your own place. You're an adult. You should have your own place anyway. Rachel, I gave you $40,000 for this house. That was a gift, Mom. You said it yourself, a gift. You can't hold that over our heads forever. Derek, who had been silent until then, leaned forward. His voice was measured, rehearsed. Me, Rachel, and I have discussed this extensively. We feel that having you here is creating an unhealthy dynamic. We're newlyweds. You've been married for 8 years. I interrupted. And we need our space. He continued as if I hadn't spoken. This is our home, and we have the right to decide who lives here. The 30-day notice is a courtesy. Legally, we could ask you to leave immediately since you're not on a lease and aren't paying rent. The words hit me like cold water. I looked at Rachel, waiting for her to contradict him, to soften the blow, to show some shred of the compassion I'd tried to raise her with. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She was looking at Biscuit, scratching behind his ears. 30 days. I repeated slowly. You're giving me 30 days to find a place to live. Pack everything I own and leave because of your dog. Mom, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Just respect our decision. We're adults, this is our house, and we have the right. I know what rights you have, I said, and I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but I wouldn't let them see that. I'll be out in 30 days. I walked upstairs to the guest room, my room for 21 more days, and closed the door very quietly. Then I sat on the bed, and that's when my hands started shaking. They shook so badly I had to clasp them together, press them against my stomach, and bend over like I'd been punched. How could this be happening? How could my daughter, my Rachel, do this to me? But I knew the answer, didn't I? I'd seen it in the way she took my money without quite meeting my eyes. I'd felt it in the rules she made that slowly boxed me into smaller and smaller spaces in her life. I'd ignored it because I loved her, because she was mine, because I thought being a good mother meant accepting whatever crumbs of affection she offered. That night I didn't go downstairs for dinner. I heard Rachel and Derek laughing in the kitchen, heard the TV turn on for their couple time. I heard Biscuit's nails clicking on the hardwood floor, the floor I'd helped them refinish that first summer. And I made a decision. I didn't know yet what that decision would look like, what shape it would take. But somewhere in the cold, hard knot that had replaced my heart, I decided that I was done being small, done being convenient, done being the mother who gave and gave while her daughter took and felt entitled to more. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. out of habit, even though I had nowhere to be. I lay in bed listening to the house wake up around me. Derek's alarm, the shower running, Rachel letting Biscuit out into the backyard. Normal sounds of a normal morning in a house where I was no longer welcome. I decided to try one more time. Maybe she'd been having a bad day. Maybe Derek had pressured her. Maybe, in the light of a new morning, she'd realize what she was doing and change her mind. I waited until Derek left for work, then went downstairs. Rachel was at the kitchen table with her laptop and a cup of coffee, Biscuit at her feet. She didn't look up when I entered. Rachel, honey, can we talk about yesterday? She sighed, the kind of exaggerated sigh that says she finds this conversation tiresome before it's even started. Mom, there's nothing to talk about. We made our decision. I'm your mother. I raised you by myself after your father died. I gave you everything I had. Don't I deserve at least a conversation? Now she looked up, and the coldness in her eyes made me take a step back. Mom, I'm tired of you playing the martyr card. Yes, you raised me. That was your job. That's what parents do. You don't get a medal for doing the bare minimum. The bare minimum? I worked double shifts so you could take dance lessons. I took out loans for your college. I gave you $40,000. You keep bringing up that money. I never asked you for it. You offered. You wanted to feel like the generous mother, the savior. Well, congratulations, you got to feel good about yourself. But that doesn't mean I owe you room and board for the rest of your life. I felt something crack inside me. I'm not asking for the rest of my life. I'm asking for a few months while I get back on my feet. I'm 58 years old, Rachel. I'm not ancient, but I'm not young either. The job market isn't easy for someone my age. Then maybe you should have planned better. Maybe you shouldn't have spent all your money on me and then expected me to take care of you. The words hung in the air between us. She'd said the quiet part out loud, the part she was supposed to keep buried under social niceties and daughterly love. She resented me, not for failing her, but for succeeding too well, for giving her so much that she'd come to see it as worthless. I see, I said quietly. Thank you for your honesty. I went back upstairs. My phone rang 20 minutes later. Rachel's number. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. Over the next week, things got worse. It was as if my attempt at conversation had given Rachel permission to show her full disdain. She stopped pretending to be polite. Mom, you left a light on in the bathroom. Our electricity bill is high enough without you wasting power, she said, standing in my doorway like a landlord inspecting a property. Mom, can you eat dinner somewhere else? Derek invited his boss over, and it would be weird having you here. Mom, I need you to move your car. We're having the driveway sealed tomorrow, and yours is an eyesore anyway. I followed every instruction, bit my tongue, and started spending my days at the public library, using their Wi-Fi to search for apartments and jobs. The library became my sanctuary, a place where no one made me feel like a burden for existing. But what I didn't know was that things were about to get even worse. I came back one afternoon to find 3 large boxes stacked outside my bedroom door. My boxes, the ones I'd carefully unpacked when I moved in. Inside my room, my closet was half empty. Rachel was downstairs. I found her in the kitchen, meal, prepping for the week with an efficiency that felt like an accusation. Why are my clothes in boxes? I asked, my voice remarkably calm considering the rage building in my chest. The contractor is coming next week to start on Biscuit's room. I need you to consolidate your things. You can keep what you need for the next 3 weeks, but everything else needs to go into storage or get donated. Rachel, I still have 3 weeks before the 30 days are up. I know, Mom. I'm just trying to be efficient. We want to start the renovations as soon as possible. She was already erasing me, boxing up my presence before I was even gone. I thought about arguing, about standing my ground, about reminding her that those 30 days were mine by right and by law. But what was the point? She'd already decided I didn't matter. That night, I called my old friend Patricia, a nurse I'd worked with for 20 years before she retired to Arizona. I hadn't spoken to her in months. I'd been too ashamed to admit that my daughter had relegated me to a guest room with an expiration date. Me, is that you? Lord, it's been forever. Patricia's warm voice through the phone made my eyes sting with tears. Hi, Patty. I need some advice. I told her everything, every humiliating detail, every cutting word, every small cruelty. Patricia listened in silence until I finished. That little brat, she said finally, with the blunt honesty that only a true friend can deliver. After everything you did for her, me, I remember you picking up extra shifts even when you were exhausted, and when I asked why, you said it was for Rachel's tuition. You'd give her a kidney. She needed it, and she's kicking you out for a dog. I don't know what to do, Patty. What you do is you stop letting her treat you like garbage. You're a skilled nurse with 3 decades of experience. You're smart, capable, and you don't deserve this. Find your own place, get life back together, and let her see what it's like when you're not there to be her emotional punching bag. I don't have the money for a deposit and first month's rent. Then find the money. Take out a small loan if you have to. Cash in a retirement account early. I don't care. Just don't stay there letting her break you down bit by bit. Promise me. I promised. And I meant it. But I didn't know yet just how far I'd have to go to keep that promise. The next morning, I started going through my finances with a clarity I hadn't had in months. I'd been so caught up in the emotional devastation that I hadn't stopped to think strategically. I pulled up my bank statements, my retirement accounts, the small investment portfolio I'd started years ago. And that's when I noticed something that changed everything. There was a transfer in my bank history from 3 years ago, the $40,000 I'd given Rachel for her house down payment. I remembered the transaction, but what I didn't remember was the additional $10,000 withdrawal from the same account just 2 weeks later. I stared at the screen, $10,000 gone to a checking account I didn't recognize. Had I been hacked? Had there been fraud? I called the bank. The representative pulled up my records and explained that the $10,000 had been transferred to an account belonging to Rachel Matthews, my daughter's married name. I'd authorized it, she said, with my PAN and security answers. But I hadn't. I would have remembered that. Unless I thought back to 3 years ago, to the week after I gave Rachel the down payment money. She'd come over to my old apartment, upset about something. I'd let her use my computer while I made us tea. She'd been agitated, typing quickly, and when I came back with the tea, she'd closed the laptop and said everything was fine. How could I have been so blind? I went deeper, pulling up 3 years of statements. And there it was, a pattern I'd somehow missed. Small transfers, a few $100s here and there, always around the holidays or Rachel's birthday. Transfers I didn't remember making, but that I'd apparently authorized. Over 3 years, another $12,000 had vanished from my account into hers. $62,000, that's what I'd given my daughter, knowingly and unknowingly. $62,000, and she was kicking me out for a dog. My hands were cold, but they weren't shaking anymore. The grief was hardening into something else, something clearer and more focused. How could someone do this to their own mother? How could Rachel not only take what I offered freely, but steal what I hadn't known I was giving? This wasn't a mistake. This was a plan. She'd been using me for years, draining me dry, and the moment I needed something in return, she'd thrown me away like I was garbage. I needed proof. I needed documentation. I opened a new folder on my laptop and started screenshotting everything, every transfer, every date, every amount. I printed it all out and put it in a manila folder that I hid under my mattress. Then I did something I'd never done before. I went into Rachel's home office while she was at work. I'm not proud of this. I'd raised Rachel to respect privacy, to trust people until they proved untrustworthy. But she'd already proven that, hadn't she? She'd proven it when she took money from my account without asking. She'd proven it when she handed me an eviction notice. Derek's office was neat, organized, the desk clear except for a laptop and a small stack of papers. I didn't touch the laptop. I wasn't looking for emails or personal information. I was looking for something specific. Financial records, the mortgage papers, anything that would show where my money had gone. I found it in the filing cabinet's bottom drawer, in a folder labeled House Closed. The closing papers from their house purchase showed the down payment amount, $75,000. $40,000 from me, but the rest, the loan they'd told me they were taking out for the remaining $35,000. It didn't exist. They'd put down $75,000 in cash. Where had the other $35,000 come from? I kept looking. There, in the bank statements from 3 years ago. A transfer from Rachel's account to their joint account. $50,000, dated 2 weeks after my $40,000 gift. My daughter had $40,000 from me, taken another $10,000 from my account without permission, and had $50,000 of her own money. She'd let me think they were struggling, let me deplete my savings, while she sat on a nest egg she'd never mentioned. I photographed everything with my phone, my hands steady, my mind clear. Then I put it all back exactly as I'd found it and left the office. That evening, Rachel came home with bags from the pet store. She walked right past me setting up a fancy new dog bed in what she was now calling Biscuit's future room. My room for 17 more days. "Mom, can you make sure to pack your winter clothes this weekend? I need to measure the room for Biscuit's built-in storage." I looked at her, this stranger with my daughter's face, and smiled. "Of course, honey, whatever you need." She looked surprised by my compliance, maybe even a little suspicious. But she didn't question it. She never questioned anything when it went her way. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Biscuit snoring downstairs, thinking about everything I'd discovered. My daughter was a thief and a liar. My daughter, who I'd loved with every fiber of my being, had stolen from me and thrown me away. The grief was enormous, suffocating. But underneath it was something harder, something that felt like the bones of myself that I'd forgotten existed. I'd spent so much of my life being soft, being giving, being the mother who sacrificed. Where had it gotten me? To a guest room with an eviction notice, that's where. I thought about what Patricia had said. Find the money. Get your life together. Show her what it's like when you're not there. But I didn't just want to survive Rachel's cruelty. I wanted her to understand what she'd done. I wanted her to feel, even just for a moment, the kind of loss she'd inflicted on me. The next morning, I called my financial advisor, a woman named Linda Chen, who'd helped me set up my retirement accounts 20 years ago. I hadn't spoken to her since I'd withdrawn the $40,000 for Rachel's house. "Me, it's good to hear from you. What can I help you with?" "Linda, I need to know what my options are. I need money, a significant amount, and I need it relatively quickly." We talked for an hour. Linda pulled up all my accounts, my retirement savings, my small IRA, my investment portfolio that I'd mostly ignored for the past 5 years. Even after the withdrawals for Rachel, I had more than I'd thought. The market had been good, and Linda had been investing conservatively but successfully. "You have about $180,000 across all accounts," Linda said. "Some of it is in retirement accounts that would have penalties for early withdrawal. But your regular investment account has about $90,000 available without penalty." $90,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was something. It was enough. "Linda, I want to withdraw $80,000. I'll keep the rest invested. I need a check, and I need it within the week. Can you do that?" There was a pause. "Me, that's a lot of money to withdraw at once. Are you sure? What's this for?" I trusted Linda. She'd been honest with me for 2 decades, had steered me away from risky investments, had helped me build what I had. So I told her, not everything, but enough. "My daughter is evicting me to make room for her dog. I need to start over, find a place to live, get back on my feet, and I need to do it in a way that shows her I'm not broken. I'm not destroyed. I'm not the burden she thinks I am." "Oh, me," Linda said softly. "I'm so sorry. Yes, I can have that check ready for you by Friday. But me, don't do anything rash. Don't let anger make you do something you'll regret." "I won't. I promised." "I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done." That wasn't entirely true. I was angry, but it was the cold, calculated kind of anger that makes you smart instead of reckless. Friday came. I drove to Linda's office and picked up the check. $80,000 made out to me. I'd never held that much money in my hands before, even in check form. It felt like power. It felt like possibility. I spent the weekend looking at apartments online, but nothing felt right. Everything was too small, too expensive, too far from anything familiar. I was scrolling through listings on Sunday afternoon when an ad caught my eye. It wasn't an apartment. It was a house, a small craftsman bungalow in Riverside, the neighborhood 2 miles from Maplewood where Rachel and Derek lived. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, hardwood floors, a front porch with white railings. The ad said estate sale, must sell quickly, priced below market. The asking price was $160,000. I'd seen this house before. In fact, I'd seen it with Rachel. 3 years ago, when they were house hunting before they settled on the Maplewood Colonial. We'd driven past this craftsman, and Rachel had stopped the car. "Mom, look at that house. It's perfect. That porch, those windows. If I ever win the lottery, I want a house exactly like that." She'd sighed, dreamy and young, and I'd laughed and told her to dream big. This was Rachel's dream house. The one she'd wanted before she settled for the Colonial that my money helped her buy, and it was for sale. I called the listing agent before I could talk myself out of it. Her name was Monica, and she sounded tired but professional. "It's a probate sale," she explained. "The owner passed away with no heirs, and the estate wants it sold quickly. It needs some cosmetic work, but the bones are solid. I can show it to you tomorrow if you're interested." "I'm very interested," I said, "and Monica, I'm a cash buyer." Those 3 words changed her tone immediately. "Oh, well, in that case, when can you see it?" Monday morning, I stood on the porch of the Craftsman bungalow and felt something I hadn't felt in months: hope. The house was exactly as charming as I remembered, with its white, painted brick, its deep eaves, its windows that let in golden morning light. Inside, it needed work. The wallpaper was dated, the kitchen appliances were old, the bathroom had pink tile from the 1970s. But it was solid. The floors were beautiful hardwood under the worn carpet. The bones were good, as Monica had said. And more importantly, it was a house, not an apartment, not a temporary solution, but a home I could own. "The estate is motivated," Monica said. "They've already rejected 2 offers because the buyers needed financing that fell through. If you're serious about a cash offer, I think they'd accept 150, maybe even 145 if you can close quickly." I did the math in my head. 80,000 from my withdrawal, plus the 20,000 still in my emergency fund, plus 40,000 if I took an early withdrawal from my IRA with the penalty. 140,000. I'd be left with almost nothing, starting over at 58 with barely any safety net. But I'd have a house, my house, and it would be the house Rachel had always wanted. "I'll offer 140,000, all cash 30. Day close," I said. "Can you write that up today?" Monica smiled. "I'll have it ready in 2 hours." While she prepared the paperwork, I called Linda. "I need another 40,000. Early IRA withdrawal. Yes, I know about the penalties. No, I'm sure." Linda sighed but didn't argue. "You're going to owe taxes on that. You know that, right?" "I know. I'll figure it out. Can you have it ready by end of business today?" "For you, me, yes, but I'm worried about you." "Don't be." I said, "For the first time in months, I know exactly what I'm doing." I signed the offer that afternoon. Monica called at 6 p.m. They accepted. "We can close in 3 weeks if you're ready." 3 weeks? I had 11 days left in Rachel's house by the eviction notice. That would give me 10 days in my new home before she even realized what I'd done. Little did they know, I was 3 steps ahead. The next week was surreal. I moved through Rachel's house like a ghost, packing my things slowly and methodically, while she and Derek congratulated themselves on reclaiming their space. Rachel had hired an interior designer for Biscuit's room, and the woman came by twice to take measurements and show Rachel fabric swatches. "We're thinking sage green for the walls," Rachel said to the designer, loud enough for me to hear from the hallway. "Calming for dogs, and we'll install these custom-built tins for his toys and food. Biscuit deserves the best." Biscuit, for his part, spent most of his time sleeping on the couch, utterly unaware that he was the reason for my exile. Derek became bolder in his disdain. "Me, you left a cup in the sink again. We're not your maids." "Me, can you park on the street from now on? We're expecting guests this weekend, and we need both driveway spots." I smiled and nodded and said, of course, to everything. My compliance made Rachel suspicious. Why are you being so agreeable? She asked one evening, standing in the doorway of my room, Biscuit's future room, while I folded clothes. I'm just respecting your space. I said calmly, you were right. I need to find my own place and stop being a burden. She looked like she wanted to find fault with that response but couldn't. Well, good. I'm glad you're finally understanding. What she didn't understand was that I'd already found my own place. I'd already put down earnest money. I'd already scheduled the home inspection, the appraisal, the title work. Everything was in motion, and she had no idea. With 1 week left until my eviction date and 2 days until my house closing, Rachel threw a small dinner party. She invited her friends, women she'd gone to college with, women who posted perfectly curated photos of their lives on social media. I was not invited to join them, but I could hear them from upstairs. So what's the deal with your mom living here? One of them asked. I recognized the voice. Stephanie, Rachel's college roommate. Rachel's response was loud enough that I knew she wanted me to hear it. Oh, that situation is almost over, thank God. She's been here for 2 months, and it's been a nightmare. She's so needy, always wanting to talk or be involved. Like, I love my mom, but she doesn't understand boundaries. We're finally getting our house back. Her friends murmured sympathetically. One of them said, God, I can't imagine. You're so patient to have dealt with it this long. I tried to be understanding, Rachel continued. But at some point, you have to prioritize your own mental health, you know. Derek and I are planning to start trying for a baby soon, and we can't do that with my mother hovering around. A baby. This was the first I'd heard about it. Rachel was planning to have a child, to become a mother herself, and she'd learned nothing about what that role required. She thought being a mother was about what you received, not what you gave. I lay on my bed in Biscuit's future room and stared at the ceiling. 2 more days. In 2 days, I would close on my house. In 5 days, I would be out of here. And then Rachel would learn what it felt like to lose something you took for granted. The day before my closing, Rachel escalated one final time. She knocked on my door at 7 in the morning, didn't wait for me to answer, and walked in holding Biscuit's leash. Mom, the contractor needs to start demo tomorrow. I need you to be out of here tonight, not in 4 days. We'll waive the last few days of the notice period. You can go stay at a hotel or something. I sat up slowly, carefully. I'd expected her to push, but not quite this hard. Rachel, we agreed on 30 days. That's 4 more days. Plans changed. The contractor has an opening, and we need to take it. You're packed anyway. What's the difference? The difference is that you gave me 30 days, and I'm entitled to 30 days. Her face hardened. Mom, don't make this difficult. This is our house. I know it's your house. Believe me, I know. I helped pay for it, remember. Here we go with the guilt trip. You gave us that money freely. Stop acting like you're owed something. I'm not owed something. I'm owed the time you agreed to give me. 4 more days. That's all. Rachel's mouth tightened into a thin line. She turned and walked out without another word. I heard her downstairs complaining loudly to Derek. She's being impossible, Rachel said, after everything we've done for her. I didn't respond. I didn't engage. I went downstairs, got in my car, and drove to the title company for my closing appointment. Everything was about to change, and they had no idea it was coming. The closing took 3 hours, mountains of paperwork, signatures on documents I'd never had to sign before, proof of funds, proof of insurance, title transfer forms. Monica sat beside me, guiding me through each page. When it was over, the title agent handed me a set of keys and smiled. Congratulations, me, you're a homeowner. I held those keys in my hand, felt their weight, their reality. I owned a house. After 58 years, after a lifetime of renting and moving and never quite settling, I owned a home. I drove straight to the Craftsman bungalow, my Craftsman bungalow. I unlocked the front door and walked through the empty rooms, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. It smelled like old wallpaper and dust and possibility. I stood in the living room, in the golden afternoon light coming through those beautiful windows, and I cried. Not from sadness, but from relief, from pride, from the fierce joy of knowing I'd done this myself, that I'd survived my daughter's cruelty and come out stronger on the other side. Then I called a locksmith and had all the locks changed. I called an electrician to check the wiring. I called a handyman service to start on the cosmetic updates. By the end of the day, I had 5 contractors scheduled for the following week and a furniture delivery set for Friday. I drove back to Rachel's house one last time. She was in the kitchen when I walked in, typing on her phone. She didn't look up. "I'll be out tomorrow," I said quietly, as originally agreed. "You'll have your house back." Finally, she muttered. I went upstairs and finished packing. Moving day arrived. I'd rented a small U-Haul truck, hired 2 college students to help load my furniture, and scheduled everything for early morning. I wanted to be gone before Rachel had her coffee. By 9 a.m., the truck was loaded. My room, Biscuit's future room, was empty except for the carpet dents where my furniture had been. I walked through it one last time, this space where I'd cried myself to sleep more nights than I could count. Then I walked downstairs. Rachel was in the living room with her designer, looking at paint samples for Biscuit's room. She glanced up when I appeared with my last box. "You're leaving." The surprise in her voice was almost comical. She'd pushed me to leave early, demanded I be gone, but now that the moment had arrived, she seemed thrown by it. "Yes, just like you wanted." "Well, okay, do you have a place to go?" The question was asked too late, with too little concern to mean anything. "I have a place," I said. "Good, that's good." She looked uncomfortable now, like she'd expected me to be more broken, more desperate, to beg for more time. "So, I guess, good luck, Mom. Good luck, after everything," that's what she had to say to me. Good luck. I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised and sacrificed for, and loved beyond reason. I wanted to say so many things. I wanted to tell her what she'd become, what she'd lost, what she'd never understand until it was too late. But I didn't. Instead, I said, "You know, Rachel, I hope when you have children, they treat you better than you've treated me. But I suspect you'll get exactly what you deserve." Her face flushed. "Mom, that's not fair." "Goodbye, Rachel." I walked out the door, got in my U-Haul, and drove away. In my rear-view mirror, I saw her standing on the porch, Biscuit beside her, watching me leave. I didn't cry. I'd done all my crying in that guest room. Now I just felt empty and light, like I'd put down a weight I'd been carrying so long, I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. I spent the next 2 weeks settling into my house, my beautiful craftsman bungalow. The handyman updated the bathroom, replaced the kitchen appliances, helped me strip the old wallpaper and paint the walls a soft cream color that made every room feel warm. I bought new furniture not expensive, but mine, chosen by me, arranged how I wanted. I planted flowers in the front yard. I hung curtains. I learned how to use the fireplace. Every day, I loved that house more. Rachel didn't call. Not once, not to check if I'd found a place, not to ask how I was doing, not even to apologize. The silence was its own kind of message. I didn't matter to her unless I was useful. But other people did call. Patricia flew in from Arizona to visit and spent 3 days helping me unpack and decorate. "Me, this place is gorgeous," she said, standing on my front porch. "You did it. You actually did it." "I did, didn't I?" I said, and we both smiled. My old nursing friends started visiting too. Women I'd worked with for years, but hadn't seen much since I'd been absorbed into Rachel's crisis. They brought housewarming gifts, bottles of wine, laughter. My house filled with people who actually cared about me, not what I could do for them. And then, exactly 3 weeks after I'd moved out, Rachel drove by. I was in the front yard planting tulip bulbs when I heard a car slow down in front of my house. I looked up and saw Rachel's SUV idling at the curb. She was staring at my house, her mouth open, her face pale. She pulled into the driveway. I stood up slowly, brushed the dirt off my gardening gloves, and waited. Rachel got out of the car like she was in a dream. "Mom, what is this? This is my house," I said calmly. "Your house, you bought this house." "Yes, the day before you kicked me out, actually." "Well, not the day before. 3 weeks before. I just closed the day before I left." She walked toward me, still staring at the house like she couldn't believe it was real. "But Mom, this is the house, the one I showed you, the one I wanted, I remember," I said. "You said it was perfect, that if you ever won the lottery, you'd buy a house just like this. How did you afford this?" Her voice was rising now, tinged with anger and disbelief. "I had savings, investments, retirement accounts. Turns out when you work for 33 years and don't spend everything on yourself, you can accumulate some money. But you said you couldn't afford your rent. You said you needed help." "I couldn't afford my rent after it went up 40%. That doesn't mean I had nothing. It means I needed time to figure things out, time you weren't willing to give me." Rachel's face was red now. "So you had money the whole time. You were just testing me, seeing if I'd help you." "No, Rachel. I was seeing if my daughter loved me enough to give me a few months in her home while I got back on my feet. Turns out she didn't. She loved her dog more." "That's not fair. You're twisting this. What's not fair?" I interrupted, my voice hard now, "is giving your daughter $40,000 for a house down payment, only to discover she stole another $10,000 from your account. What's not fair is working double shifts for years to pay for her college, her wedding, her life, and being thrown out like trash the moment you need something in return. What's not fair is being evicted for a dog." "Rachel, a dog?" She took a step back, her face shocked. "How did you know about the 10,000? So she wasn't even going to deny it." I checked my bank statements. I found a lot of interesting things when I finally started paying attention. $62,000, Rachel. That's what you took from me one way or another. And it still wasn't enough for you to let me stay in your guest room for a few months. Mom, I can explain. I don't want your explanations. I want you to leave. Mom, please, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I was stressed and Derek was pressuring me, and I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking very clearly. You were thinking about what you wanted and how I was inconvenient. You made your choice, now live with it. Tears were running down her face now. Real tears, the kind that come from panic rather than remorse. Mom, don't do this. You're my mother. You're supposed to love me no matter what. That sentence, that entitled, self-centered sentence, crystallized everything that was wrong with what I'd done as a mother. I'd loved her no matter what. I'd given without boundaries, sacrificed without expecting gratitude, enabled her selfishness by absorbing every hurt she dealt. I do love you, Rachel. I will always love you, but I don't have to let you treat me like garbage. I don't have to set myself on fire to keep you warm. I raised you to be better than this, and I failed. That's on me, but what you do from here is on you. So what? You're just going to cut me off. I'm your daughter. I'm not cutting you off, but I'm also not chasing you. If you want a relationship with me, you're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to show me that you understand what you did wrong and that you're willing to change. Until then, I'm going to live my life in my house without apologizing for taking care of myself. Rachel was sobbing now, full body sobs that shook her shoulders. Part of me, the mother part that had comforted her through every scraped knee and broken heart, wanted to hug her, to comfort her, to make it better. But I didn't, because she needed to sit with this. She needed to understand that actions have consequences, that relationships require reciprocity, that love is not an infinite resource to be exploited. Please, Mom, please, I'll make it right. I'll pay you back. Just don't shut me out. Go home, Rachel. She stood there for another minute, crying, waiting for me to change my mind. When I didn't, she walked back to her car. Before she got in, she turned one last time. "This house should have been mine," she said, her voice bitter through the tears. "You had the chance to have a house with me in it," I replied. You chose the dog. This house is mine, and I'm going to fill it with people who actually appreciate me. Go home to Biscuit. I'm sure he's wondering where you are." She drove away. I watched her taillights disappear around the corner, and then I went back to planting my tulips. The weeks after that confrontation were quiet. I'd expected Rachel to call, to text, to show up again with apologies or accusations, but she didn't. The silence stretched from days to weeks to months. At first it hurt. Despite everything, she was still my daughter, and I missed her. I missed the version of her I'd thought existed, the girl who'd hugged me at her wedding and cried over the beauty of string lights. But slowly, the hurt faded, replaced by something more sustainable: acceptance. I accepted that I'd raised a selfish daughter. I accepted that my unconditional love had enabled that selfishness. I accepted that she might never change and that I couldn't make her. Patricia moved back from Arizona. Her husband had passed away the year before, and she was tired of the heat. "I saw your house on Facebook," she said. "You have a spare room, need a roommate. We worked out an arrangement. She'd pay rent, but less than market rate. She'd have her space, I'd have mine, but we'd share meals and companionship. It was perfect, the house filled with life. Patricia's grandchildren visited and played in the backyard. My nursing friends held a monthly book club in my living room. I got a cat, a gray tabby I named Earl Grey, who slept in patches of sunlight on the hardwood floors. I went back to nursing part-time at a clinic that valued experience over youth. The work was easier than the hospital, the hours more regular, the patients grateful. I didn't need the money as badly now. My expenses were low, and Patricia's rent helped, but I needed the purpose. 6 months after I moved in, Derek showed up at my door, alone. "Me, can we talk?" I let him in, offered him coffee, which he declined. We sat in my living room, Earl Grey eyeing him suspiciously from the couch. "I owe you an apology," Derek said. "I pressured Rachel to kick you out. She was conflicted about it, but I convinced her it was the right thing. I told her we needed our space, that you were taking advantage of us. I was wrong. I'm sorry." I studied him. He looked sincere, uncomfortable in the way people get when they're admitting they were wrong. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Rachel is pregnant and she's scared. She keeps talking about what kind of mother she'll be, whether she'll be good enough. And I realized she's scared because she doesn't have her own mother to ask, because we pushed you away." I felt a complex knot of emotions: joy at the idea of a grandchild, anger that it took Rachel's pregnancy for them to realize what they'd lost, sadness that she hadn't called me herself. "Is she here? Did she send you?" "She doesn't know I'm here. She's too proud to reach out. But me, she needs you. The baby needs you. And I think maybe you need them too." I thought about that for a long time after Derek left. Did I need them? Did I need Rachel and her unborn child when I'd built a life that felt full and peaceful without them? The answer was complicated. I would always love Rachel. I would always want to know my grandchild. But I couldn't go back to being the mother who gave everything and asked for nothing. That version of me had enabled Rachel's selfishness, had taught her that my love could be taken for granted. If we rebuilt our relationship, it would have to be different. It would have to include boundaries, reciprocity, respect. Rachel would have to acknowledge what she'd done and make real amends, not just say sorry when she needed something from me. I called her a week later. She answered on the first ring, her voice tentative. "Mom, Derek came to see me. He told me about the baby. Congratulations." There was a long pause. Then Rachel started crying. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was horrible to you. I was selfish and cruel, and I don't know how to make it right." You can start by acknowledging what you did, not just to appease me, but because you understand it was wrong. I do understand. I think about it every day, about how you worked so hard for me, gave me everything, and I just threw you away like you didn't matter. When I found out I was pregnant, the first thing I thought was I need to call Mom And then I realized I didn't know if you'd even talk to me. I'm talking to you now, I said gently. But Rachel, if we're going to have a relationship going forward, things have to change. I need to be treated with respect. My time and resources can't just be taken for granted. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. I promise, Mom. I'll do better, can we? Can we try again? We met for coffee the following week. It was awkward at first, both of us stepping carefully around the hurt. But slowly, we started talking, really talking, not just surface pleasantries. Rachel told me about her fears of motherhood, her worries about being enough. I listened, offered advice when she asked, but mostly just let her talk. I want my child to know their grandmother, Rachel said near the end, the real you, not the version of you I took advantage of. I want that too, I said, but we're going to take this slowly. We're going to rebuild trust, and Rachel, I need you to pay me back the $2,000. Not all at once. We can set up a payment plan, but I need that acknowledgement that what you took wasn't yours to take. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I will. I promise. It's been 2 years since then. My granddaughter Lucy is 14 months old. She takes her first steps on my hardwood floors, chases Earl Grey through my rooms, laughs at the tulips. In my front yard, Rachel brings her over twice a week, stays for dinner, helps with dishes. She's been paying me back $500 a month, slowly but consistently. Our relationship isn't what it was. It's better in some ways. More honest, more balanced. She doesn't call only when she needs something. She asks about my life, remembers details, shows up. It's not perfect. We still have moments of tension, echoes of old patterns, but we're trying. Derek apologized formally, took accountability for his role. He's been respectful, careful not to overstep. We're cordial now, maybe even friendly, in my house. My beautiful craftsman bungalow that Rachel once called her dream home is filled with the kind of life I'd always wanted. Patricia and her grandchildren, my nursing friends, my book club, Earl Grey, and now Lucy's toys scattered across the living room floor. I learned something important through all of this. I learned that silence doesn't mean weakness. I learned that setting boundaries doesn't make you a bad mother. It makes you a healthy person. I learned that love isn't about sacrifice without end, but about teaching people how to value what they're given. If you're going through something similar, if you're being taken advantage of by someone you love, if you're being treated like you don't matter, know this: you deserve better. You are allowed to stand up for yourself. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to put yourself first without guilt. Being a good mother, a good friend, a good person doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. It means teaching people how to love you properly. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst behavior. My daughter kicked me out to make room for her dog. It was the most painful thing she could have done to me, but in the end it freed me. It forced me to see my own worth, to build a life that didn't revolve around being useful to someone else. And when she finally came back, humble and changed, we could start building a relationship that was healthy for both of us. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments. Have you had to set boundaries with family? Have you had to choose yourself when someone you loved was taking advantage? You're not alone in this. So many of us have walked this road. Remember, every story has a lesson, and yours might be just beginning. But whatever chapter you're in, know this: you are valuable, you are worthy, and you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Take care of yourselves. Until next time, this is me,